Critical moments.
Critical moments. To me, I remember when this album came out. I know I say that all the time because I was living it when it was happening, but I remember when Creatures came out. Um, I remember going down to the record store and picking it up. And one thing that I noticed at the time, well, you didn't really see it so much with Unmasked or with The Elder either, but whenever Kiss had a release, there was always a big merch push. I think the last big time you saw that was with Dynasty. Um, you go in and get Creatures, and there's the album, and not really posters or anything else like that. Um, there's promo stuff but I remember taking this album home and listening to it and just being floored, just flabbergasted at how good I thought this record was compared to at the time. I remember thinking I have not liked a Kiss album this much since probably Ace's record. Uh, and before that, probably, Alive 2. But as far as original material goes with the band all together, um, Creatures was like amazing. Still is. But it's got its highlights, got its low points, as we will discuss. And I remember, this was Kiss getting ushered into the MTV era. I remember the very first time seeing I Love It Loud on MTV. And that video is just amazing to this day. Such an iconic video. And the band just looks awesome in it. Now you still see hints of the Elder. Ace still has his short hair. You still see hints of that Elder era. Um, and the and then I remember going to this tour and being surprised that there was this guy with makeup we'd never seen. We was expecting Ace, and we went and seen it in the Charlotte Coliseum, which is now the Bojangles Arena in Charlotte, and they had half of the. It's about a maybe about a 7,000 seat arena, and they had half of it curtained off. So there was
Yeah.
the floor, and there was like the sides, half the sides, and then the stage, and they had back behind the stage curtained off, and so it was only half the arena, and it wasn't sold out. And but I think this was and I remember that. I think I've looked back, and that tour did not do very well. It didn't do as good as they thought it could have. And I think it was just people were burnt, and they were maybe getting a little tired of the makeup. And it's funny that years later we wanted it back. Um, but mostly for nostalgia. But I think this album would have done a whole lot better if they would have chose to take the makeup off for this album. But I mean, who knows? Who knows if that's accurate? It might not be. Um, but yeah, to me, this is like a sister album with the album we're doing next month with Lick It Up. I always call Creatures and Lick It Up sister albums because they're very similar in a lot of ways, and in a lot of ways they're not. And but I think this album is very critical. I think this is the album that kind of started Kiss back on the path of like a resurgence. They would be. I think had this album not happened, or this album had they'd continued to go in a unfocused direction, I don't think the band would have lasted much longer. Especially with the passing of Neil Bogart. This is actually their last Casablanca album. Lick It Up would be on Mercury. And so I think this album is probably one of their most critical in the catalog because this is an album that had to be good, even if it didn't do as well, could have or should have. It had to show the fans that were sticking or that had stuck around to this point that Kiss was still a viable rock band, and that they still could make heavy music. And I think but I think a lot of people, it kept a lot of people away, new fans, with the makeup and the costumes and the shtick of the kid. And I think it had gotten extremely long in the tooth. And that's why I think Lick It Up blew up, because now they did look like everybody else. And I think that's why Lick It Up became so successful. Even though I think the songs on Lick It Up are on Creatures of the Night are just as good as the songs on Lick It Up. But I think when they stripped the makeup off, it they no longer had, like, they had, even with the makeup on with Creatures, I think they drew like imaginary lines, and they'd confined themselves in this imaginary box. But when they took the makeup off, they're like, oh, we can be 80s sleaze just like everybody else. And and you ended up with an album like Lick It Up and subsequent albums after. But to me, this album it's critical to me. I remember just wearing this album out, learning to play drums, learning to play the drums along to it. Eric's phenomenal. To me, there's two MVPs on this album, and they're not really so much Gene and Paul. There's two MVPs on this album, and Eric's one of them. Eric's the only member of Kiss that played on every single song on this album. I've got a little bit of a breakdown of that as we go along, but Eric is truly, whoever, it was two different people that recorded and mixed his drums.
Mm.
They recorded them in like a storage unit off the side of the studio. And so they had room mics that was placed. That's how you just got that huge sound that it has. So yeah, the drums, in kind of a way, and just the guitars, and the performances of everybody that played on this album. Uh, I think it makes it, to me, it's one of the, like, the crowns. It's like one of the jewels in the crown. That's just my opinion. That's all I got. AJ.
That was this one very special to me because this was the first one I got when it was released. Now I'd gotten Alive 2 and Paul and Peter solo albums. I knew who Kiss were. I saw 321 Contact, The Kids Are People Too, the Solid Gold, the Fridays, and I saw all that. But for some reason, I don't know. I don't remember ever seeing like Unmasked or the Elder in the store. I never saw the Elder in the stores. And so when I got this I got it when it was released. So it was really cool. And then I got everyone after that up to smashes. So I, man, and it's probably the heaviest stuff I ever heard at the time, sound wise, you know. And that video, yeah, that video blew me. And anytime I Love It Loud came on, it was like, oh my god, this is on. Because I've seen other Kiss stuff before, and it was really cool. But just something about the sound and Gene and the yelling the chorus, like
Hmm.
this is badass. So whenever it would come on, it was awesome. And I hear what you mean when you talk about it was kind of like almost like a bridge between that could have collapsed or
Hmm.
it would they could have went and just kept going, which they luckily kept going. We got some good stuff after that, and then whatever. But yeah, it's one of my favorites for sure. I'm trying to think what era, but I think just because I'm a big sound guy, I like if something sounds good, like I hope it's good too, but a good sound helps me. So I mean, there's some really good albums that just sound like shit in general, and it kind of knocks it down a couple notches. But if it sounds good, and for me, I do like the songs, I do like everything about it, the cover, everything. So it's one of my faves for sure.
One of my favorites, just because it was a huge one to find. I think when I came into being a fan, Exposed was so big, and seeing that Rio clip from
Oh,
Exposed was just like, oh crap, what is this from? Oh, it's from an album called Creatures of the Night. But I will say, this is my Creatures of the Night. This is the actual CD I bought back then. and this is the order I like of the songs, and this is my cover. Like I know Creatures of the Night is one of the coolest covers ever, but I love this cover, and I think it's because that's I came into that era, that non-makeup Bruce, Eric, Gene Paul era,
Hmm.
and I knew it wasn't Bruce back then, but I don't know. I just have such a soft spot for this cover. Like I can't. I don't think I could ever buy a makeup CD, like a remaster.
Oh shit.
It's just like it wouldn't feel right. But I'm with you in like as a huge Bryan Adams fan, seeing those tracks written by Bryan Adams and Jim Vallance and Gene, I was like, oh man, I can't wait to hear that. And they're two of my favorite songs from this record. So it was just a very cool like summer to get this CD and just, I mean, I was, 5 years late, but it was so much fun.
I never heard the CD version of that. I had it on tape, your version, and I never really realized anything was different. I'd really like to hear that again.
They swap two tracks, don't they? Swap Killers and
Killers
Saint and
and
Sinner
Saint,
and Killer.
yeah, they put Saint Center almost at the end, and they moved Killers up to like the second track or something.
and
Hmm.
then there is some like mixing differences you can tell, but
Yeah,
That's what I want to hear that again.
Yeah, the first time that Creatures of the Night came on my radar was Alive 3, because that was like my introduction to Kiss, apart from the tribute album, because I got them at the same time. But on Alive 3, I Love It Loud just sounds so big. And
Yeah.
Creatures of the Night, the opening,
hmm
and it's going crazy, and like I was like, holy shit, I need this album. Like this feels like this is the album for me. And when I got it, I was like, yeah, still like Love Gun better. And now I tell myself I still like Love Gun better, but I feel like I listen to Creatures more. So I don't know. Maybe this is like in the back of my mind, I'm still saying Love Gun because it's like that's there. That sound isn't great, but like part of me is like, yeah, but Creatures is more my style. And when I was listening to it before we started, like I was telling my wife which song was my favorite, and the way I put it doesn't sound like me because it almost doesn't sound like a Kiss fan. I said this song, I like it. This is my favorite on the album, and it sounds the less like Kiss of any song,
Hmm.
which is weird. That's a weird statement to say, but also I think this album helped me branch out more into different, because I was like in that I was in love with Garth Brooks, and then I found Kiss through Garth Brooks, and then it's like now I like Jimi Hendrix, and now I like Bon Jovi and Bruce Springsteen and all these other musical acts, and I'm like Bryan Adams. Like I didn't get into Bryan Adams really until like 95, when what was the album with the best part of
so
you
far so
was,
good.
yeah, that one. Wait, no, that's So Far So
That's the
Good's the
greatest hits.
greatest hits.
18 Till I
One
Die.
after that, 18 Till I Die. That album, I remember my dad got it on CD and I stole it. But I mean, so this was like my gateway to stuff like Metallica, AC/DC, Iron Maiden, all those other different bands that I never really paid any attention to because Kiss was it. But yeah.
hmm
And I mean, just the lore around this album. I mean, for the longest time, I always assumed it was Ace. And now I go back and listen to it and I'm like, this sounds nothing like Ace. How did I ever
Yeah.
even think that? But I was a kid and, stupid. I didn't know the difference. Now I can hear it. If I heard Ace guest on anything and I heard his guitar, I'd be like, that's Ace Frehley.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's crazy the amount of people that were involved in this
Oh,
for it to sound like a cohesive album is, I mean, Michael James Jackson did a phenomenal job on this.
hmm
And Look
For
It Up as
sure.
well. I don't
For
know,
sure.
and Killers. I don't know why they didn't keep using him through the 80s. I guess Paul got a big enough boner for himself that he decided to take the reins.
That's the answer.
Did Paul produce Animalize?
Yeah. Or
Mm-hmm.
co-produced it, right?
It was a co-producer. Yeah.
But I mean,
But
he did keep Kiss afloat in the 80s. I mean, I think we're all in agreement of that
we're in
phrase.
agreement. We're in agreement of that.
We're in agreement. Shout out to Fido and Powie.
Well,